And you talk a lot about friendlies. Well, I think we'll get on to friendlies a bit more because I think they're really important in this process. But I'd like now to think about, that you're going to have to go and present something to a leader or a group of leaders, and it's going to involve a presentation. We'll talk about the structure of the presentation in a second because it will probably echo a lot of what you've already talked about. But I'm now thinking in 2 weeks' time, I know that I've got to go and present to this group of people and there's a presentation. Do I send it in advance? If it's important they've read it, how do I get them to open that presentation and actually go through it? Because otherwise there's a danger that I'll turn up and say, effectively, you've probably seen the presentation, and they'll go, no.
No.
And then suddenly you're like, oh, now what do I do? So how do you prepare that information in advance and get it in front of the right people and make sure they've consumed it?
I think that is entirely up to them. Some will, some won't. Some will if they have time. Your job is to make sure that you do send it a couple of days beforehand. Send it too long beforehand, it's almost too soon. So,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll probably be making changes up to the last minute. Um, but I think it's up to you. Your job is to send it ahead. And again, email, ready for the meeting, couple of bullet points attached or link to. You can't really control, I think, whether they're going to read it or not read it. You'll just get to know the people who never open anything. And then the people who do open it, read it and have their questions. And actually, it's interesting. You'll see that does impact the type of questions that come to you. The person who's read it will probably have deeper, challenging questions. The person who hasn't read it will equally have challenging questions, but they're a little bit on the surface, and it's clear that they haven't really read it through.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so controlling those two different types is interesting.
Yeah. And you've talked about when we were preparing for this that you've been in meetings with, for example, a CTO who just wants high level detail. Tell me what I've got to decide and I'll back you. And in the same meeting, you've got a CFO, for example, who wants all of the detail. Now, you can't do both, right? You've got to choose what you're going to do. How do you manage that in real time?
Yeah, it's ugh, it takes experience, I think, to get it right. And even when you've got experience, you might not always get it right. I think you've got to just get that balance between definitely don't go too much into detail there and then. I probably would say keep at the high level, jump quickly to slides that you might have if you want a bit more detail. And then you can just say to the CFO or whoever wants the detail, say, I'll shoot you over my spreadsheet after the meeting. So doing it by follow up with the super detailed person, and then they can kind of mess around with the detail in the background. But you do still need to jump to some level of detail. So it might be talking about a decision, and then they go, oh, I want to see the numbers on that month by month, whatever. And you go, oh, let me show you this slide. And then that will probably answer sufficiently, but not have made the CTO too bored. And then if they do want any more, follow up later separately, or, say, well, you and I can get together and have a look at that detail if you want to, or I can just send you my Excel file.
And what's the best overall approach? Is it in that meeting where that you're going to have Mr. Detail versus, Mrs. High Level? Do you go straight in with my recommendation is this, and it's because of this, this, and this, which will satisfy that CTO? Or do you say, here's a story, here's some background, here are a couple of things which leads me to my recommendation of this, which maybe will satisfy the CFO a bit more?
Mm. Good point. I think I would still be sticking with the very succinct, because you can always jump, because they, even though somebody might be more detailed, they still need to make a decision. So they still need to have those bullet points like, here's the problem, here's the options, bam, bam, here's the decision I need. But during that conversation, they might just ask or want a little bit more detail. So that's why I always go details in the appendix. Always know where your detail is.
So you've got the meeting, and you maybe have sent the information on, but now the big moment has come, and this is your first time, or maybe your first few times when you're walking into that room, and these intimidating people are sat there looking at you as you walk in. How do you manage that situation? How do you make the right impression? How do you even enter that room?
Oh, nice. I don't try and go to the back of the room. Now, it might well be if you're walking into an existing meeting, there is only one spot available. Just take that spot confidently. And actually, I did in my earlier days of, sort of first being in a senior role, I would very specifically go and try and sit as close as I could to not necessarily the front, but nearer to the top level, just to show I wasn't scared, even though I was. So,
Yeah. Yeah, but you
so
can't hide, can you? If you hide, if you sort of sneak in at the back or try and be, yeah, just like anonymous almost, you're
yeah,
not going to make that impression, are you?
no, exactly. Still like they'll smell the fear.
Yeah. Because I'm very aware, having been in those meetings, and I can remember the first few times, and the more comfortable you are in those meetings, you become this person yourself. But
Mm,
you're sort of judging the people who come in, aren't you? You're sort of evaluating them and looking at their behavior and how well they've prepared and how clear
yeah,
they are. Because
yeah.
you're in your brain, you're thinking, do I trust this person? We talked earlier on about, do I trust what they're going to tell me? Is this somebody who I think belongs in this forum? So when you go in, you are being evaluated, aren't you?
Absolutely. It's like any situation,
Yeah.
entering with some style and confidence as best you can. Do remember one thing in your favor, particularly if you're presenting at, there's an SLT meeting of some sort, and, it's the quarterly full on day or 2 days of leadershipy meetings, right? Everybody's a bit bored of one another.
Hmm.
So you walk in and you're new and fresh. So actually, it's a great opportunity to grab everybody's attention because they'll be going, "Oh, thank God, we're not listening to ourselves again. It's somebody new. What will they
Fresh
have to
meat.
tell us
Fresh
about?"
meat. Yeah.
So you're nice and fresh and new. So use that to your advantage. And it's more likely you've been brought in because of your expertise on a particular topic. Let's say there's some new information security program and you're the guru on that. So you're coming in to talk about something that is very specific and interesting, and it's fresh and nice and new because senior leaders get a bit bored of being in the meetings with the same people all the time. So that's definitely your superpower will be that you are fresh and new. So try and keep it interesting.
What about when you're in that meeting? And I've seen this play out many times. And let's just say there's 5 or 6 people, that those sort of planning meetings that you talk about when everyone's in the room together. And there's that one person who is difficult, asking tough questions, challenging, heckling almost, whereas everybody else seems to be fairly on board. How do you deal with that person?
Oh, it is really hard, but you've got to try and keep that on the inside. You go, um, on the outside, there is no point in trying to argue back or anything. You just try to you can't ignore them, but just it's a good point. We can come to that later. I can get back to you on that. Or with a bit of luck, you've got somebody else in the room who's on your side and will tell them to shut up. So
Yeah. And what
that
about
would
the
be
what about the very beginning of the presentation? You've prepped and mentally in your head, you've slept this and you have prepared your words and you know what you're going to say and you know what you want them to do. You know how you're going to present and you stand up in front or you're sat there with your laptop and you press the button, slide one. Somebody asks a question right at the beginning that just throws you off of your track. What do you do
oh,
then?
it's incredibly irritating. But you do have to expect it. I now have been in the room often enough to know that it's highly likely you will end up going all over the place. It is highly likely that they will want to look at things out of sequence. So you just need to be prepared for that. Try to, no matter how hard you try to make sure that your presentation is logically ordered and covers everything in the right way, make it succinct and build to the decision, you will find so many times that somebody just, they end up getting hung up on a particular thing. Now, you might not know why. There's lots of things going on in the background. It might not make sense to you, but there might be a particular reason why they get hung up on this bullet point 3 that you didn't even think was very important. So you do just have to go with the flow. So I think preparing yourself that it is highly likely you will be thrown off your train and you'll be thrown off the logic,
Yeah.
then that makes it better. I mean, there are some meetings you go into and it is very much straightforward and everybody goes through the slide deck nicely. I have to say they're probably the most boring meetings. I find the ones where, if I look back and our tech leadership team were a bit chaotic sometimes, but we ended up with good results and we had really good discussions. So your job is to be there to try and present the information to get to a decision. If you just remember, that's what you're doing. You've done all this work. You're presenting something to enable a decision being made. And if the way that they get there is slightly different to the way you planned, that's okay. So it's being confident in all your information and knowing where everything is so that you can flip.
And I think when you've been there enough times, you learn not to let it throw you. You anticipate it, don't you? And the
Mm,
worst thing you can do is make it get flustered and, oh, I don't know.
mm.
You have to be calm. You have to just address it and you need to keep going.
Yes, exactly. And not, I mean, there is a temptation. And sometimes you do need to lead and be a little strong about it. People get stuck in some detail and to say, oh, I've got more detail on that coming. And
Yeah.
actually don't even tell them, just go straight to that slide. So
And sometimes when you say to somebody, "I'll get to that later," and you never do, they forget it. Sometimes they just actually want to be difficult and pose and go, "Look at me, I'm asking questions," and actually they don't
yes.
really mean it.
Yes. Actually, that is a very good point because as much as this might be a new experience for you, there might be other people in the room who are maybe new to their position and, people are trying to make sure that they look clever by asking lots of questions, um, even when it's not necessary. So you just need again, put yourself in other people's shoes and everybody will have their own little agendas and their own way of working. So being flexible is important because you are dealing with different people and different ways of making decisions.
Yeah, we talk a lot about diversity, don't we? And actually, you want a diverse set of minds beyond all of the normal diversity
Mm.
parameters. You want a different, yeah, a set of varied people in that room.